What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay here to talk some Packers, talk some offseason. Got a lot of topics we can dive into. I know the Patreon group's been on fire. I know we've been getting a lot of texts, a lot of messages, all that good stuff. Tim, how you doing this morning, bud?
Doing good, man. Got the cup of diesel ready to go. Feeling good. It's Friday. Let's talk some ball, man.
It is Friday, man. I swear it seems like it was just yesterday we were talking about getting a new week started. So love it, man. Love it. Friday, January 24th. We got the East-West Shrine game coming up next Thursday, I believe, if I'm correct there. And then we've got the Senior Bowl on Saturday. We're going to be doing a live watch party for that. If you want to come in here, put it on the TV, throw it on mute, and hang out with us and talk the Senior Bowl from a Packers perspective. It'll be a lot of fun with that. So I know we got everybody filing into the chat. Josh Martin in the house. Good to see you, buddy. We got Drew in here, Joseph, Ron Samble, Randy Cleavers, Jason Y. What's going on, buddy? Venom / in the house. Emilio says, wow, so much smoother when I'm not there messing up the intro. We were just talking about that a minute. You guys wondering about the intro last night. The way the system's set up, it's preset to play an intro for us as soon as I hit go live, right? So I hit go live, the intro starts, and Emilio hits another video and completely takes it off. That's probably my favorite. That's probably my favorite start to a show in a long time, Tim. I was cracking up, man.
That was awesome. We love it. Emilio, you're the man, brother. We'll see you tonight, hopefully.
Hopefully. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Jason Y says the Lions hired Rodgers from Tampa Bay. So there's another hiring that's falling into place there. Prince in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Dan the Stan, good morning to you, sir. And we got Miss Joyce Martha in here. But Emilio will miss Glover talk. Yes, he will. And everybody sit up straight. Joyce is in the house, okay? Nobody say anything inappropriate and be on your best behavior. And Emilio's buying into that propaganda she just posted there about that. We'll miss Glover talk. That's not propaganda. I'm just saying there's no reason for us to talk about Travis Glover. Emilio, he was the lowest graded player on the Packers roster on offense. Maybe the entire – some would say the entire roster. Definitely offense, right? So stop it, Emilio, with the Glover talk, okay? Just for a second. But anyway – Patreon group, Tim, before we jump into it, is there anything you want to hit on before we dive into some of these Patreon comments here, Bo?
Well, we just got that little tight end conversation we're going to have. That's all that I can think of fresh on my mind. But no, we can go right to the Patreon, the VIP section of the PTA posse, right?
Matter of fact, let's talk the tight end first, okay? Because I'm glad you reminded me once again. It would have gotten overlooked.
Actually remembered this time.
There you go. So loyal listener as Robert, you guys know him. He's the one who gives us all the officiating information during the season. Just an awesome asset to the show, no doubt about that. He mentioned a player, and I'm just going to read the text message from him. He said, good morning, Clayton. This was on Saturday, by the way, so I fell behind on the text. I found a tight end. I was wondering if you guys could deep dive for me. I saw Carl Brooks repping him because he went to Bowling Green. Harold Fannin Jr. is his name. I know he had the highest PFF grade in all of college football and was Offensive Player of the Year in the MAC. Fannin Jr. out of Canton, Ohio, is the highest graded football player in the nation and overall grade at 95.9. His 31 broken tackles are not just the most in the nation by all players, but his broken tackles are the most by a tight end in history of PFF's grading, and that's the last 11 seasons that they've been around. So let's pull him up on the screen here real quick and see if we can dive into Mr. Harold Fannin Jr. for just a second. I don't know where he went. All right, here we go. So like he was saying, let's start in 2022. He played 304 snaps. His PFF grade was a 68.1. All right. Then in 2023, an 85.8. That was the highest graded tight end in all of college football, according to PFF's big board here. And then a 95.9, like Robert mentioned in the text. He was the top graded tight end last year as well. So what you're seeing is he checks all the boxes. He's also only 20 and a half years old. So he'll be 21 this coming year. So young, check the box. Size, 6'4", 230, check the box. Progression, 68 to 85 to 95, check the box, right? It's hard to find anything negative on Harold Fannin Jr. other than small school, right? Bowling Green. However, we got a little bit of precedent there, Tim, with obviously drafting Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green. But when you look at the grades, you think, okay, yeah, it's a smaller school, but who do they play? You guys know who Penn State is?
Yeah, that's a pretty good team.
At Penn State, 91.7. Tim, do you know who Texas A&M is?
Yeah, I've heard of them. They're a pretty big school.
On the road in Texas A&M, 88.6. Old Dominion, 91.8. At Arizona, 90.7. So really, you've got I think this is Western Michigan, 97 or 92.8 as well. On the road at Ball State, 84.5. So when you say, okay, did they play anybody? Yeah, they played two of the country's top programs early in the year. And oh, by the way, he was elite in both of those games on the road as well. So I think you got one there, Robert. Now, when I posted that, or I sent it to me, Emilio, or when I sent it to Emilio, Tim, and Jacob, immediately Emilio said, "Hey, he's up there toward the top of our board, on our big board right now." And keep in mind, it's still growing; it's going to change. He's the number 17 overall prospect with a 34.5 is the grade. The lower the number, the better for us in that regard. So he's worthy of a top 20 pick according to our board. If a need were to file in right now, when you look at what he does well, you have a better chance of saying what does he not do well, right? Like if you were to say, okay, what's the worst thing about his game, Tim? It would be the drop rate, but it's still at 3.3%, which is almost to the 3/4 mark. So it's not a problem. It isn't. It's just he's too damn good at everything else. His receiving grade is at 96.3. It is completely maxed out. His yards per route run, a 3.76, and his contested catch rate, 54.5%, just below the 3/4 mark as well. So his run block grade, 75.2. It's almost maxed out here on the graph as well. So Harold Fannin Jr., listen, now you got to ask yourself, if you're would the Packers need to draft a tight end? Immediately you think no, but if we're going off of PFF's grades, Luke Musgrave was bad last year, and he was coming off an injury. Now, you immediately think Ben Sims, who I've always liked. I thought Ben Sims was a solid player, but also he was what was he? He was inactive for the final game there against Philly, and they activated John Fitzpatrick. Now, maybe there's some injury news behind the scenes that they didn't unveil for us, and why would they, right? I don't know, Tim. If this guy's sitting there, let's say in the second round, right, I think it'd be hard to pass up on him because you know that Matt LaFleur keeps trying to press into 12, although 11 is his baby. You try to press into 12 personnel, this might be a dude you're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't give a damn that he's from a small school. It doesn't matter. It's about what is he going to do in the NFL. If you bring him into the fold, he's got the youth factor going. We all know, right? Goody DiCaprio. So I don't know. I've heard some people saying he's really 6'3". He might be a little lighter. He might be a little undersized. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any truth to that. But, PFF having him, first out of 438 tight ends.
2 years in a row.
2 years in a row, which is crazy because then, obviously they've got 4 other tight ends listed above him on their rankings. Right. So I am with you, man. I think it's something you have to consider, but I don't think we should take a tight end before we shore up the trenches, D-line, O-line, things like that. But if he's available, man, this is a guy that you should have your eyes on for sure.
Yeah. And again, he's listed as 6'4", 230 here. Joseph in the chat say Clay. Supposedly he's actually 6'3". And that's where I think I'm in the minority, Joseph. That 1 inch there of height, that doesn't bother me. I don't look at that and go, oh crap, he's 1 inch shorter than me. You know what I mean? Not that you do either, but thank you for the information. That seems to be kind of the common theme is people saying he's not as big as he's listed. But yeah, it's an interesting prospect. Do I think it's at the top of our needs? Absolutely not. But again, sometimes the draft simply comes down to you got one player in the top tier when you pick and there's no trade partner and you go, hey, stick to the board, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I wouldn't at all. Very, very interesting prospect there, though, in Fannin Jr., Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. And we appreciate Robert bringing that up for sure. I know Drew D says Fannin is my tight end 3 is where he's got him listed. And for us on our board, as it sits right now, and again, it's very early, this is going to change, but as it sits right now, we've got Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan in the number 5 spot. We've got Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State in the number 7 spot. And then we have Harold Fannin Jr. in the number 17 spot. So
don't forget about our boy Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, too.
Yeah, and what's crazy is Mitchell's pretty far down the list for
Yeah.
us. And it's
That's what I'm saying, right? A late round, like if we
yeah,
snag a tight end or something, someone that might be on the board later rounds.
and Notre Dame has kind of become known as tight end U 2.0 behind,
Yep.
who was at Iowa, I think it was. It always turns out the good tight ends. But they've got several, they've had it for over the last 2 decades, several tight ends that are just solid players in the NFL. It just seems like every year another tight end's going from Notre Dame to the pros. So Mitchell Evans is probably up for that award this year. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's looking like a pretty good tight end draft early on. Now, if you're wondering what brung Fannin Jr.'s grade down for us, it's the PFF big board. That's what's wild about PFF. They graded him as the best tight end in football, but they've got him ranked 80th and behind two other tight ends. So that's where the big board sometimes you scratch your head and go, so if you thought he graded out that well, that's why it's important, I think, to take the grades for what they are, right?
Yep.
Someone was grading the tape for PFF, and that's what they seen. So it's more information is better than less, but you got to put everything into a pot, right? And these guys, these draft picks, it's not just about we're drafting them based off what they did. We're drafting them based off what we think they'll be, right? And that's where teams get in trouble a lot of times, where the Packers have missed on a few first round picks. I think we would all agree on. So when I say missed, I don't mean they're bad football players. I mean you would have been fine with them in the third round, but they haven't played like first round talent,
Right.
So but yeah, the PFF big board brings them down being in the 80 spot when we put the information in. We try to get it in early because there's some politicking going on right now behind the scenes. I promise you that. And then the consensus big board had them at 56 when we built this. So again, shout out to Emilio helping put that board together. It's coming together really, really nicely there for sure. All right. Up next, let's go ahead and close that out. Appreciate that again from Robert. Let's go to the Patreon group. And this is just in the general chat. This is, I want to let everybody know too, if there's something you want potentially shared on the show, whether it's a question or something like this, throw it in the questions for the show. I've got the general chat set up so you guys can just hang out in there and talk. You know what I mean? Because you know how it is. What I would like the questions for the show part to be is just literally not people going back and forth on stuff. It's just, hey, how about this? How about this? And we may select it, we may not. But this was in the general chat. And this came in from our boy Dave Colvin. I'm going to come back to it in just a second. It's a Bleacher Report article. It says every team's most likely cap casualties ahead of the 2025 NFL offseason. Okay, so we're going to come back to that here in just a second. But the rest of these in here, I thought were worth hitting. As Chris Nichols says, I may be totally off the rails, but what about the handy Saleh gave Matt LaFleur? He spent the second half of the season learning the Packers offense inside and out, and then heads back to the arch nemesis as defensive coordinator. Again, obviously he's going back to San Francisco. Talk about Matt LaFleur getting played by his BFF, question mark. Cringy. I'm more than embarrassed as a fanatic of this team. Please change my mind. And Matt LaFleur didn't get dissed, dog. Then Ben Johnson disses Matt LaFleur in the press. His peers are just walking all over him in the public. Matt LaFleur needs to respond. Yes, physical violence. So here's the way I see that, man. They've all been friends for a long time. Robert Saleh, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur, obviously Matt's brother, all those guys, KOC.
Mike
I
McDaniel.
don't think this was them scheming behind the scenes on Matt LaFleur. If anything, Robert Saleh could have went to the San Francisco 49ers and helped. He could have done that. But he chose to come there with Matt. So you go, okay, why did he go to the 49ers? Because Matt LaFleur isn't offering him a defensive coordinator job. It's really that simple. That's all it is, Chris. Now, as far as the public perception of Matt LaFleur being soft and getting walked over and this and that, I think 90% of that's BS. That's just me. I think that's people that they get pissed off at Matt LaFleur and Chris. I think the reason you're asking the question, I think it's a a good question to ask. It's just I think what happens behind the scenes is these people they get mad at Matt LaFleur in the moment, and then he's soft. He's a whiner. He's always crying on the sideline. He's complaining. He's losing his emotions, all these things, right? You guys know I've been vocal. I think he needs to be more controlled on the sideline because that trickles down in your organization. And I'm not talking about don't be fiery. It's okay to be fiery. But when something goes wrong and they've got the slow motion 30-second clip of you throwing your head back and going, oh, that's not a good look. Your team's going down. That's embarrassing. That's the way that is, right? That's just how I see it. Tim, what's your take on this, man? Do you think there's anything behind the scenes there that maybe
I mean, it is an interesting thought, though. Like he's
definitely.
brought in as this consultant. Hey, you're going to consult from the off. Help me out with my offense. And it's like a little inside baseball, like you talk about. And now, oh look, he's going to be the DC San Francisco. Kind of interesting. I wonder. One thing we know about Matt is he's the king of preparation, though. So if he thinks that there's anything that might put us at a disadvantage in that matchup, if we in fact do play the Niners next year at some point, I think Matt's going to account for that. If he sees his buddy Bob Saleh over there coordinating a defense against him, he's probably going to change his call sheet up for that game, I would think. But it is to me, it's interesting. I don't think there's anything there. I think a lot of the Matt LaFleur hatred is unwarranted. Basically, it's like I've said before, man, we got to get over the hump. That's the biggest issue. We've got to get to a Super Bowl for Matt to get some respect, I think, throughout this league and around the league. I'm not overly concerned about the dork in Chicago talking crap about Coach LaFleur during his press conference, which just continues the long line.
Get ready to go.
That goofball. The long line of coaches that just in and out of Chicago that are obsessed with talking about the Packers, which is probably why the Bears haven't had much success, because they're more worried about, us than they are about their own organization. So I think we just go forward and realize that, a lot of these guys are kind of buddies. And, that's why you see staffs kind of put together the way they are. Guys like to hire their buddies that they've, from their coaching trees and things like that. We talk about the connections between coaches. So I don't think there's anything there, but I think Chris has got a point. On the surface, it kind of looks like we let Bob Saleh into 1265 and he took our playbook and went to San Francisco.
Right. Yeah, I can understand that. Judy says, I think Saleh was brought in as a favor to Saleh to learn how to understand an offense for when he becomes a head coach again. Also, I doubt we gave him all the secret. And see, here's the thing too, Drew, and I completely agree with you. People, and not Chris, this isn't meant for anybody specifically. I'm just saying in general, fans pretend like, oh no, they're going to know our secrets now. Guys, there are no secrets. There are no secrets in the NFL. It is a copycat league. You'll see a play called in week 3, and then in week 6, 3 other teams will call that play. Like, we all share tape. There's nothing that Robert Saleh would have learned inside the building that's not on the tape that all 32 teams have access to, right? So I don't really buy into that whole, oh man, he was taking notes behind the scenes and gathering intel. It's silly. Now, being in the building, can you understand some terminology? Yeah, but typically you change that every year anyway. So I just think it was more what Drew said. It was more of a favor to Saleh. That was, hey, Matt LaFleur and Saleh are best friends, right? And that's why, in my opinion, the story should have been, why did Saleh choose to the Packers over the 49ers? That's interesting. But instead, because there's this extra hatred towards LaFleur from some people, and painting him out to be this like really bad coach, I think it was, hey, let's spin the storyline too, Oh, he was just here. Man, LaFleur got played, right?
Right.
And Chris did say, I agree with you, Clayton. And, yeah, he's just throwing out an idea there like, hey, do you think there's something to that? My opinion is no. So I could be wrong. I could. It might have been a diabolical plan. Right. Next, Greg S. in the general chat here in our Patreon group. If you guys want to join that, just scan the QR code in the upper right. If you're one of those 3 tiers, you get access to the chats and also to the giveaways. We're going to be giving away an autographed Dorsey 11 jersey here real soon to one lucky member of the Patreon group. So Greg S., head coach rumors run wild. Informal conversations report leads to throwback speculation on mystery Cowboys target. So it's got Rich Bisaccia. So there's some rumors swirling, and this is a USA Today article done by Cowboys Wire. We're not going to click on the article and dive too deep into it, but there's rumors swirling that maybe Rich Bisaccia might be a candidate down there in Dallas, right? And to the best of my knowledge, he has not interviewed. They haven't requested an interview. I could be wrong. You guys correct me in the chat if that's changed. But Rich Bisaccia in Dallas, listen, it would suck to lose Rich Bisaccia, and I know the fans absolutely hate him. They think he's a bad special teams coordinator. I'm not of that opinion. Do I think he's lived up to the contract? Probably not. But I'm looking at win total, right? and being an assistant head coach, you help in that regard as well. And we want to criticize people when things go wrong, but we don't want to give them praise when things go right. Like,
Yep.
for instance, Rich Bisaccia got raked over the coals over the kicking issue the last 2 years, right? I think we would all agree it was like, man, Bisaccia's horrible. And then no one was saying Rich Bisaccia's done a great job with Daniel Whelan. Now, I'm of the opinion, Tim, that a special teams coordinator is not going to make a kicker and a punter bad or good.
I agree.
They either do well or they don't, right?
That's why they're called specialists.
Right.
You
But
got one job, bro. Do it right.
but if you're going to criticize someone for how the kicker plays, then don't you have to give him praise when the kicker does good or when the punter does good? You know what I mean? That's kind of where I've been there. So maybe it just wasn't a fit with Bisaccia, but you guys know when they hired Bisaccia, and I talked about this with the special teams problems in the past with the Packers, I don't think it's linked to a special teams coordinator. I don't think Rich Bisaccia all of a sudden overnight became a bad special teams coordinator when he came to Green Bay. I've said this all along, and I didn't come up with this on my own. This is an old Bill Parcells, Michael Lombardi opinion. West Coast offense teams that are run by West Coast offense head coaches do not prioritize special teams. They just don't.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've got these general managers like Goody, who comes from the Ron Wolf tree, the Ted Thompson tree, Ron Wolf team, you guys notice there's been a West Coast offense involved for a long time. They steered away a little bit with Mike Sherman, came right back to it. They want the backbone of this team to be built by the West Coast offense. Well, the old East Coast way, this is where it all came from. And it wasn't the origin, but let me give you the peak of both of these styles of roster building. Bill Walsh in San Francisco, West Coast offense roster, right? Building that. On the East Coast, you have Bill Parcells and his coaching tree, the Bill Belichick's, all them. Guess what they prioritize? Special teams.
Yep.
Right. The West Coast offense architects, they don't. It's, hey, let's get the next great weapon in here where we can be effective on offense. So what do you typically get? You typically get a team who's got a top 10 offense all the time, but their special teams is kind of bad, right? On the other side, what do you got? You typically got teams that have a really good defense. Their offense isn't the focal point. Think of the Tom Brady early years, right? And then their special teams is just solid. Your Matthew Slaters, those guys that just every year you look up and go, how the hell do the Patriots keep winning? And you look at their special teams and their top 3, top 5 in special teams. So I think it's more about how you're building the roster as opposed to, do we have all of a sudden Rich Bisaccia's hit the wall and he can't coach special teams? Because you guys know we went through like 4 or 5 special teams coaches over the years. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, Tim. That's the way I see special teams. I think it's more of in that regard as opposed to, the other. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're right, especially when you talk about the kicking game, and the punting game, things like that. I'm looking more at, how does the return unit look? How do we look running down the field and making plays, on a punt or on a kickoff? As far as, the technicians, the specialists, your long snapper, your kicker, your punter, like you said, Clay, those guys, you either got it or you don't, man. You can either do it at that level or you can't. I don't know how much of that falls onto a special teams coordinator. And as far as Bisaccia as a coach, I mean, if he's so bad, why are we hearing these rumors that he's being considered for a potential head coaching interview? Let's also not forget, he basically single-handedly kind of propped up the Raiders there for a while after that kind of debacle dumpster fire situation they had. And I think that's why he got a lot of attention across the league, is for the job he did as an interim head coach in that Raiders team. So, I'm not a Bisaccia hater. I think that's no secret to anyone who's watched our show. I think he's a good coach. I think bad special teams play can be rooted in, not being prepared, and maybe that falls on the coordinator. Right. But it's also on the ability of those players to go out and take it serious every single play. And we got some special teamers on our squad. And I think that it's just one of those things, like you said, man, we're a West Coast offense team, and it's just not going to get the level of priority that it might in a different style offense. I really think so.
Yeah. And, that's the other thing is, like, when he took over the job, the special teams were a mess. We were having, that 49ers game, in the playoffs. Block punt, return for a touchdown was why we lost that game. People don't like to mention that. They like to mention that Rodgers throws an interception into double coverage to Devontae Adams, and that's why we lost. They also like to conveniently forget the Rashawn Gary stop there on the short down yardage that pretty much should have sealed the game, right? But, of course, the offense sputtered and had to punt, get it blocked. The rest is history. So you had that. You had field goal, bad snaps. You had the bad holds. The field goal kickers were horrible. Now we look up and we had the second most accurate kicker this year. The drops on the holds, the bad holds, the snaps, all that stuff has been fixed. You now have one of the top punters. I would say top 3 punter in the league. Some would probably say top 5. All of that, the major catastrophes have been fixed. And now it's like, well, he's not doing this good enough. Okay, keep in mind, if you make a switch from special teams coordinator, don't be surprised if some of those other woes come back. And the reason I say that's because it has been an issue for time to time, and I think it's because there's not a whole lot of emphasis on the operations aspect of how can we get the best players in here to do that. We're worried about trying to find, what did we just get through talking about? One of the top tight ends in the draft when we don't need a tight end, right?
Yep.
How about combing through college football and saying, hey, let's try to find the next great long snapper, even though we're okay with our snapper, right? Those are the things that Bill Belichick really spent a lot of time on building that dynasty, and it's how they stole a couple wins, here or there. So
I remember when we first hired Rich Bisaccia, and my first comment was, well, as long as special teams is not a raging dumpster fire anymore, we'll be okay. That was all we expected, because it was horrible for a long stretch there. And I think at the very least, Rich has got this unit playing, effectively. You always can get better. You can always improve. But I think we need to do better as fans and be a little bit more graceful and gracious and patient when it comes to certain things, because I've seen way worse special teams units than the one that we had last season. So nothing to freak out about.
Definitely. Ron Sample said, and I think he was just giving me an answer to my question, just casual conversation with Dallas. So that could be Rich's agent too, just kind of dipping his toe in the water and going, hey, anybody interested in this? Could be. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So there you go. Oh, actually, there was one more. Greg S. says, Chris and I agree, would have been much better if he had went to an AFC team, talking about Saleh. The Ben Johnson thing doesn't matter, though. Every Bears head coach makes comments about the Packers in their first presser while we don't even think about them. That's so true. So true. So we'll continue to rake those fans and those media members over the coal, along with their respective, or probably not even respective, coaching hires. So
get ready to go.
This other article that Greg S. mentioned, Tim, I wanted to try to hit it real quick. It's going to be difficult because there's ads like crazy on it. When I click to sign up on Bleacher Report to create a profile so we can get rid of the ads, it's asking for my cell phone number and all kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to ignore that. So let's go ahead and share the screen. This is the article he was talking about, and we don't want to read the entire article. You guys make sure you go give it a click, all that stuff. It should be easy to find on the interwebs. This is basically the top potential cap casualties for each team. We're not going to focus on all of them. We're going to see if any big names grab our attention, and then we'll see where they rate that type of thing. So they've got a running back, DJ Dallas, linebacker Mac Wilson. We're kind of looking for a linebacker, so I immediately went over and tried to pull the PFF grades. Mac Wilson was a 63.8 this last year, so not horrible, but definitely not someone that you would consider like a top tier, hey, if they let him go, let's go grab him, right? Offensive tackle, Jonah Williams. Let's see if we can pull up his grade real quick and just see where he's at. Jonah Williams, he finished with a 70.7 on 343 snaps. So if they do cut him, and again, his cap hit a $16.1 million, that's why they're thinking he might be a post-June 1 cap casualty. If you guys are wondering what that means, they can cut him early, but they have to carry that cap hit until I think it's June 1st, and then it can drop off. So essentially, you've still got to allocate for cap space if you want to sign someone, knowing you're going to get that cap space back after June 1st. Is essentially how that works. That's kind of the dummy way of explaining this. So Jonah Williams might be 110, kind of get your attention. Like, we're needing a little bit of depth on offensive line, maybe for the right price. But if he was making 16.1, I don't think he's just going to all of a sudden go in to make a minimum,
Right. I don't either. But dude's a baller. Like, let's be real. I don't know, possible but not probable, right?
Yeah, exactly. Next is the Atlanta Falcons on this list, and they've got a defensive player here, Grady Jarrett. I always want to say Grady Jackson. You remember Grady Jackson back in the day?
Yeah.
That was my brother's favorite player on the Packers. Like when he would watch Packer games with me, he was just he would laugh every time he'd see Grady Jackson. He said that dude just looks like he's ready for a bar fight. You know what I mean? I love Grady Jackson, but Grady Jarrett, defensive tackle. You know he was good several years ago. Let's see if he's holding up at all here. What is this Kevin King guy right here, Tim? Somebody explain this to me. Is this our Kevin King, who played 74 snaps and had an 81.7? Are you seeing it?
No, where?
You can't see the screen.
Oh, I can't see it.
On the Atlanta defensive grades here, I don't want to pull this article down. Yeah, Drew says it is. Kevin,
it is him, yeah.
He was signed by the Falcons. He played 74 snaps, and he led the Falcons defense with an 81.7.
Dude, and I'm going to be honest with you, man. I don't think anybody busted their ass harder than he did to get back into football, man.
Right.
That dude's career was dangling by a thread. And to me, that's impressive, man. You know, it's impressive to get back. I mean, same thing we said about Eric Stokes. You know, Stokes worked really hard to get back and obviously didn't grade out super well this year. But Kevin King, man, that's amazing, dude, that he even got back and got another shot. You know, shout out to the Falcons for giving him a shot. But that's insane that he's got the highest rated of their whole defense, or just the secondary?
Bro, their whole defense.
Oh my gosh.
He's an 81 again, only 74 snaps, right? But an 81.7. Behind him is Natron Brooks with 43 snaps at 80.8. Then Jesse Bates III, one of the highest paid safeties in the game, 1,000 snaps, 80.2. Right. So, yeah. Now, as far as the guy on the screen here, Grady, well, we got really rerouted there. That's hilarious. So Kevin King popping up, going, "Hey, I'm elite. Sign me," right? So Grady Jarrett,
riot.
Grady Jarrett, I think, is 34 years old or 32 years old, and his PFF grade was a 62.1. So not horrible, but obviously not somebody you're lining up to try to sign. Also, defensive line, David Onyemata, I think is how you say his name. Onyemata, according to PFF, graded out a 66.2. So obviously he's an interior defensive lineman. I think he's 32 years old as well. So nothing really there, in my opinion. Ray McLeod's a wide receiver. Going on the Baltimore Ravens, you got cornerback Arthur Mollett. Let's see if we can find him real quick and just get an idea of I'm trying to see if any of these guys are like, whoa, he had a good year. That might be a good pickup, you know. Arthur Mollett, he graded at a 45.8 on 72 snaps. So that's going to be a no from me, dog. Marlon Humphrey had a cap hit of $25.4 million. He graded out, Tim, with a 79.0. Now, how old is he? He's going to be 29 next season. That might be a guy that if they cut him loose and you get him for the right price, let me put it this way, he's going to go towards the top of the list of our short free agent list that we created, right? Like we had a Carlton Davis, 74.5. He's 28 years old. Byron Murphy, 73.4. He's 27 years old. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw, 73.1. He's 27. And DJ Reed's 28 at 70.7. He would be the highest PFF graded corner if they cut him. That's one that grabs my attention. So we'll keep an eye on that as we get closer to free agency as well. Does that make sense, though?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Mark Andrews. Now, you guys, if anybody who watched that playoff game, boy, that was hard to watch, right? When you're talking about and the way Lamar kind of, I don't know, am I wrong thinking that Lamar threw him under the bus of the presser at the end?
I didn't catch that. Just like Mark Andrews didn't catch the conversion.
It was tough look.
Yeah, I mean, and like, how often do you see a guy like that make that play? He makes that play, well, I guess 9 out of 10 times now. I was going to say 10 out of 10 times, but you know, it proves like at the end of the day, these guys are human, man, and you make a mistake like that. I mean, that was not a perfectly thrown ball, but my goodness, certainly catchable for a big boy tight end, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the Bills Mafia doing what they do. You've been aware of what they do, their tradition in the playoffs, Tim? If a player loses a game for a team, what they'll do is to say thank you to that player. It's kind of a dig at them, like, hey, thanks for sucking. They'll go find his charity of choice and they'll donate to it. Right? Like
that's cool.
His top charities. They've raised over, according to Venom Slash, they've raised over $90,000 for that charity. to say a special thank you to
That's
to
cool.
him. Hey, seriously, like it's almost like it's tongue in cheek. Like, hey man, you sucked, you lost the game, but let's give this money to your cause. I think it's hilarious. I think it's a real good
I
way.
do too, man. That's like a positive way to trash talk, you know?
Exactly.
I love it.
Bills Mafia is awesome, man. There's no doubt about it. So Edge Von Miller here. Now listen, he's going to be 36 years old, right? Soon to be 36 years old. Tim, he's still doing the damn thing. Only 316 snaps, but 85.3 PFF grade. That's wild. So Von Miller's one that kind of falls close to that Khalil Mack. Like,
I was
hey,
just gonna say Von Miller or Khalil Mack. Who you gonna overpay for?
now precedent. Is there precedent for Goody to do that? No. But
No.
there is for Ted Thompson. He signed Julius Peppers, right? So you could kind of see where people would draw the parallel there. Kicker Tyler Bass. Obviously, we're good at kicker. We better bring McManus back. That's all I got to say. Matt Milano, linebacker.
Here's a
He's
guy.
been good for them for quite some time, I feel like. Let's see if he had a down year. He must have. Yep, 59.3 for him.
Yeah.
So he obviously he's going to be 30 or he's 31 years old, so he may be just about done with the game of football. Carolina Panthers. We'll go rapid fire here because I got to wrap up pretty soon and get to a doctor's appointment. Cornerback Dane Jackson for the Carolina Panthers. You would think there's not a whole lot going on with that Panthers roster, but let's see what Dane Jackson looks like here on their roster. Dane Jackson, he must be toward the bottom. This ain't good, Tim. This ain't good for old Danny boy. Dane Jackson, 33.8. Let's keep it moving. Defensive line, Shy Tuttle. Interesting name. 42.7. He was shy on the football field too with 42.7.
Yeah,
so
good.
there you go. Chicago Bears. Let's move on to them. Tight end Gerald Everett, not interested. Safety Kevin Byard. Let's go to the Bears.
Nah.
Tim says no on the surface. Let's see though. 1,000 snaps, Tim. Hear me out. 1,000 snaps, 72.0. It looks like his coverage grade was a 60.5, but other than that, tackle grade 89.6, run defense 86. We just don't need a safety, do we, sir?
No, it's not an immediate need, but it's something you could add depth to. And I would rather go to the draft for that because there's some safeties in this draft, especially safeties that are able to play in the slot as well, which adds depth twofold behind Bullard.
Right. Ryan Bates, interior offensive lineman for the Bears, 60.1. So that's going to be a no from me, dog. Moving on to the Bengals. Guard Alex Kappa made $10 million last year, right? Let's see where Alex Kappa is according to PFF. They've got him at a 50.5. No, thank you, sir. Safety, Geno Stone. That sounds like a name that's familiar, Tim. Didn't we talk about Geno Stone in free agency? Was he leaving Baltimore, I believe?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's see how it fared. Because he was one of those guys like, hey, that might be a nice signing. He played 1,100 snaps, but a 53.1.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Goody cooked with Xavier McKinney, all right? Sam Hubbard, edge defender, Sam Hubbard. Let's see where he's at here. Sam Hubbard, 58.9 on his PFF. Cleveland Browns offensive tackle Jack Conklin. Man, I've heard that name for quite some time. Boy, they just shifted on the ads here. Give me just a second here. What just happened here, people? Lord, have mercy. Took us all the way toward the bottom. Now we're off track. This is wonderful. Give me just a second here. Let's see if we can get back up toward the top. Keeps resetting on me. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but
yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah.
What are we looking up now?
Cleveland Browns is the roster we were going into here. We're almost there. It completely shifted back towards the top. I apologize, gang. Offensive tackle Jack Conklin. All right, let's go to Cleveland Browns roster. And we're just going to get through a few of these, and then we maybe pick it up later. Just trying to see, all right, there could be some potential cap casualties here. Jack Conklin, offensive tackle, 66.2, not great, right? And then you got guard Joe Batonio. Batonio, I thought, was having a good year. At least he has had a pretty good career. I'm not seeing him anywhere on here. Where's he at? Where's this knucklehead at? Batonio. Oh, there he is. Okay, 63.9, nothing great. And then Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks was a guy you heard in free agency. It seems like the last year or the year before. Jordan Hicks is 77.4, Tim. Linebacker. Why they would cut him if he's only a $4.2 million casualty there? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
He a stack backer?
He is a stack backer. Yeah, he played 602 snaps too, so played a lot of snaps, 12 games, 77.4 is a PFF grade. That's one that you keep an eye on for sure, right? And again, I don't even like to take the time to write these guys down because they may not be cut. That's why I try to steer clear of these type of articles. But I thought it was interesting that you're going to see the whole purpose of highlighting the article, because Greg S. brought it up, is you're going to see some of these guys get cut, right? That's going to happen. There's going to be some cap casualties, and that free agent market is going to adjust. So that's going to happen probably right before free agency. You remember when we cut Zadarius Smith? He was a cap casualty, right? So that's kind of how that worked. We'll just go rapid fire now, Dallas. See if any of these names catch anybody's eye here. Let's see, Alex Singleton, tight end Troutman with the Detroit Lions, defensive lineman DJ Reader.
Interesting.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see what we got on DJ Reader here real quick. 66.5. Not horrible, not great, right?
How old is Reader? He's like 29, right? Something like that.
It's not showing me his age on PFF here. It should show, though. It has been saying it. No, 31 next season. So
holy cow. Okay.
I'd say it's a no. See if any of these. Oh, here we go. Packers. Jair Alexander at the top of the list, $25.4 million, saying he might be a cap casualty. A post-June 1 cut would create $17.5 million. That's what we're talking about. So when we talk about freeing up $6 to $7 million, if you cut him, that's before June 1. After June 1, keep in mind, if you cut him as a post-June 1 cut, you're going to free up $17.5 million this year, but you got to carry that difference there until you got to carry his whole contract, I believe, until June 1st. So it's going to limit you a little bit in free agency. But keep in mind that if you choose to go that route, you're going to be better off long-term, right? Going post June 1. So you can always restructure these other contracts we've been talking about. You got more than enough room to play with that restructure potential on the other contracts that you could do a post June 1 cut. I wouldn't be surprised because that's what we did with Zadarius Smith. This wouldn't surprise me at all if there's no trade partner. Now, I know many people think he's got a high trade market. I personally don't see that.
No.
No more than a third. It'll probably be closer to a sixth or a seventh, in my opinion. Hopefully I'm wrong, though. But that's interesting there, man. Tim, now knowing that the post-June 1 cut number is 17.5, how do you feel about the whole job?
I feel exactly like you do, man.
50-50?
Yeah, I just don't, and I'm in the camp of I don't think the trade market is there. I just don't. At least not to where I think we could be comfortable with a trade. So, Goody, man, it might be a move to create that cap space, man. I don't know. I'm still 50-50 though. I don't want to believe that he's gone because that's my dude, but writing's on the wall.
Another one mentioned here is Malik Willis. This makes me scratch my head. They could create more than $1 million in cap space. Who cares?
Yeah.
He's $1.4 million against the cap, and he graded out as like a top 15 quarterback or something, right? Or no, he finished lower than that, but I think he was a 70. This was his PFF grade, if I remember correctly. So obviously we've seen it firsthand, Tim. It's rare that you get a backup quarterback who can truly come in and win a game or two for you, right? Yep. And the fact that he finished, let me see if I can find him here. Yeah, he finished 7th highest graded player on the team at a 70.3. And before AFAM starts his crap in here, Jordan finished with a 75.8. All right, AFAM. So for the longest time, I couldn't say that to AFAM because he was grading out higher than Jordan. So it is what it is. All right, let's see.
Everybody's favorite long snapper, Matt Orzich.
I feel like he's done a good job.
So do I. I don't know why people the hate is unwarranted, man. I don't get it.
Now, with that being said, if you can do better at any position, I'm all about it, right? I don't think anybody's off limits.
Let's not forget how many of those snaps that Danny Whelan had to jump up and stop from going out of the back of the end zone. So,
and look, again, you got to tip your cap to having a 6'5" punter too. I've never thought about that, Tim. It never crossed my mind. Hey, get a tall punter. They can handle the bad snaps a little bit better, like a basketball player, right?
Yep.
Boy, that came in handy this year.
Yeah, Whelan's good size too. I mean, even on those, some guy breaks off a return on you. That's a lot of times your last valve is that punter, and it's nice to have a guy that can actually run out there and put the hit stick on somebody if you need to.
Right. And people that were laughing because he had a 9-something or, a damn near perfect RAS going, oh, why does a punter care? That's what the size matters too, man. That 6'5" played a huge role in that RAS, right? Prince says, Waylon bailed out Orzik at lunch. Yeah. So maybe we could do better at long snapper, maybe we try to comb through and find a new one here. I'm just going to roll through real quick and see if there's another big name that grabs our attention because I've got to wrap this thing up. I'm going to be late if I'm late for this doctor's appointment, Mandy's going to kill me. She's a little bit concerned about your boy here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It just reset again. See how it went all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, I hate that. It's like a scroll reset.
We're done with that article. Go read it yourself. Bleacher Report. It's the potential cap casualties. Again, thanks to Greg S. and the Patreon group for bringing that to our attention. There. Tonight, we got another article that they shared in that same chat from the 33rd team, the 2025, or no, actually, I think I found this on my own, I believe, but 2025 NFL draft ranking the top 10 prospects attending the East-West Shrine game. So, Tim, make a note. We'll forget, both of us, I know, but let's go just put 33rd team East-West article, all right, or just Shrine article. There you go. That'll do it. Because I'd like to hit that and just kind of get ourselves primed for the East-West Shrine game as well as the Senior Bowl. That's going to be coming up next week, so there's going to be a lot of that talk this week. And what's going to happen is we're going to focus on that as me and Emilio continue to build the board in the background. We're going to focus on that. We're going to do a watch party for the Senior Bowl. And then as soon as the Senior Bowl stuff's over, right, there'll be a little residual effect from what we learned from those prospects. But then we're going to jump right back into free agency because it's going to be right around the corner. Plus, we got the Combine coming up, so there'll be plenty to talk about.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's it, guys. The plan as of right now, if everything goes okay with the appointment and everything, we will do a show tonight, 7 p.m. Central. But I got to check with Mandy and see what we got planned. Sometimes Friday nights are the nights we try to – you guys know. You've been around long enough. You know we like to go out and try to –
You know how we roll.
Exactly. Tim's probably going to try to save his marriage with some plans tonight too. If you do, Tim, it's totally cool. If not, we'll get in here and talk ball. But I appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate yours. Thanks for having me, Clay. And best of luck today, man. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, appreciate it. Everybody, thank you in the chat. You guys are awesome. We'll potentially see you tonight. If not, we'll definitely see you tomorrow morning. Everybody have a great Friday. We made it, baby. We made it to the end of the week. Go back.
And we go. We out.
Bye, guys.